Topping today's news, police investigating another murder, this time in the Flamingo Gardens community. Gas margins come into effect today. Prime Minister Davis reacts to the Standard & Poor's report, and the F&M chairman and the Minister of Health butt heads over health care. Bahamas. This is your JCN Evening News. I'm Jcn Saunders. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Shortly after 4 p.m. this afternoon, police notifying the media that a man had been shot and killed in the area of Montgomery Avenue. That's in the Flamingo Gardens community. This would be the 90th homicide recorded for the year. There were 110 homicides recorded in 2023. This follows the death of a man found shot to death on the roof of an unfinished building in Kennedy subdivision on Saturday morning. The Ministry of Economic Affairs has released a notice to the public advising that effective today, Tuesday, October 1st, the margin increase for the price of gasoline of 25 cents, inclusive of value-added tax, and diesel, 16 cents, also inclusive of value-added tax, comes into effect at the gas pumps. Retail gas station owners have been fighting for the margin increase for years to help offset the rising cost of doing business. They say the increase will not have a major impact on the price of gas for consumers. Meanwhile, taxi and bus drivers are seeking to get a discounted rate on their fuel as to not lose the recent increase that they received in their fares. Prime Minister Philip Davis is focused on the economy. In a statement released on Monday, he said he welcomed Standard & Poor's last report on the Bahamas, which gave the Bahamas a B+ rating. He points out that when his government came into office, the country was in crisis. He said the mishandling of the pandemic meant our country's health and economic outcomes lagged behind those of other nations in the region. The national debt had increased to $2.4 billion in just 2 years. The Prime Minister added that a global inflation crisis has hit Bahamian families hard, but his government is taking on the country's toughest problems. He highlighted the implementation of the first nationwide energy reforms, challenging the Grand Bahama Port Authority to live up to the terms of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, creating opportunities for Bahamians, and improving Family Island infrastructure, among other successes. Turning to the opposition's recent comments regarding the Standard & Poor's report, the Prime Minister said it has been disappointing to see the opposition so determined to ignore the country's progress instead of celebrating it. On Monday, Free National Movement Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands, in a recorded voice message, was extremely critical of the government's efforts in the health and wellness sector, saying the Davis administration has failed the Bahamian people. He spoke of poor conditions and 15-hour wait by patients at the Accident and Emergency Department at the Princess Margaret Hospital. He had this to say about the Accident and Emergency Department and the new $280 million hospital the government is set to build on the New Providence Highway.
Now, this is no criticism of the hard-working, long-suffering staff. You see, what we see at PMH day in and day out is not the way our people should be treated, including some of the most vulnerable in our country. Since the last election, the Prime Minister has visited PMH at least twice, and he said that he was shocked by what he saw. He promised action, but like most of his promises, it was more public relations. Nothing much has happened. He was just blowing smoke as usual, and he nor his minister seem to really care. The upgrades at Accident and Emergency have been going on for almost 5 years, from 2019. One of the main reasons is that the funds for the upgrade have been diverted to other things.
As for the new hospital, Dr. Sands is on record saying it will not solve the current problems we face in the medical field.
In fact, building the new facility can make things worse. We already don't have enough nurses, doctors, and other healthcare technicians and professionals to staff A&E and most of PMH in Naran. So where the staff coming from to work at any new facility? And don't mind what they say, the PLP has no strategic plan for this, as many nurses and other doctors have repeatedly and clearly stated. So Bahamians, I want you to take note. The new Chinese-funded facility on land that should be environmentally protected is not a new hospital and is not intended to deal with the issues that most Bahamians are concerned about, and that is the adult care for our grandfathers, our grandmothers, our mothers, our fathers, our sisters and brothers. It is mostly a maternity ward with some other facilities.
Dr. Sands says the opposition is of the opinion that the best thing to do is to invest in fixing the issues at the Princess Margaret and the Rand Memorial Hospitals. The Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Michael Dowell, was quick to respond to Dr. Sands' comments, describing them as political grandstanding and an attempt to seek political relevancy. Dr. Dowell pointed out that Dr. Sands, a former Minister of Health in the Minnis administration, is being critical of the very healthcare system he failed miserably to fix during his tenure, which was filled with indecision and ignoring glaring issues that plagued the Princess Margaret Hospital. Dr. Dowell said he found it a betrayal to the Bahamian people by Dr. Sands to suggest that the country does not need a new hospital to serve maternal child health issues. As for delays in renovations to the Accident and Emergency Department at the Princess Margaret Hospital, Dr. Dowell reminded Dr. Sands that the poorly structured contracts and oversights under his watch were rampant and that he has no ground on which to point fingers. Dr. Dowell explained that funding for the renovations at PMH was never diverted by the Davis administration and that the Minnis administration failed to properly budget for necessary repairs to the roof of the hospital and the outdated cast iron plumbing for sewerage and drainage. He said the long overdue repairs to the Accident and Emergency Department at the Princess Margaret Hospital will be completed next month. And finally, in this segment, on Friday night around 11 p.m., police intercepted a vessel in the area of Bay Street carrying 45 undocumented Haitian nationals. The group included 32 males and 13 females. Police linked the smuggling operation to a white Nissan Juke, which was seen transporting individuals to the boat. 3 Bahamian adults, 2 men, ages 29 and 50, and a 48-year-old Bahamian woman were arrested on charges of human smuggling. The Haitian nationals were handed over to the Bahamas Department of Immigration for further processing. Just last week, the Minister of National Security, Wayne Munro, led a workshop that highlighted the growing issue of human trafficking in the Bahamas and the Caribbean region. If you recall, in July of 2022, 17 people died and 8 were still reported missing after a boat trying to smuggle migrants into the United States capsized in waters just off New Providence. 2 Bahamian men were charged in connection to that fatal smuggling incident. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.